real good with the powerful noise, man.
Welcome to the YouTube channel. My name is Eric Manjarrez. I'm with my good friend Rob Manjarrez. We're going to be covering topics, but I wanted to go ahead and do a little quick Bible study on John chapter 1, 4 through 9. So we're going to go ahead and go to that. First John chapter 1 verse 4 says, "In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but came to bear witness about the light. The true light which gives light to everyone was coming into the world." And then we'll stop there. We're going to take this verse by verse for a little bit, and then we'll talk about kind of application about applying this passage to our lives. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. In our culture today, there are different ideas about the light, what the light is the light living inside of us? But in John chapter 1, we have, in John chapter 1, I'll go to this one, I'll go to this scene. In John chapter 1, we have the author John telling us that Jesus is the light. He's the one who gives light to everybody. And then it says in verse 5, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." And I believe what John is doing by talking about darkness and overcoming it, in the incarnation, John is really going back to creation. As even in verse 1, we have, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God." So he brings back this creation idea. So in John 1 verse 5 here, he says darkness. This light shines in the darkness, just as in Genesis, how the light shined in the darkness. God spoke light into existence and it shined in the darkness. So Jesus comes and he shines in the darkness. And then it says the darkness has not overcome it. And this is interesting, I believe. So it comes from this word katalambano in the Greek, which means to grasp or to control or to take over. And another understanding of it would be to not be able to comprehend. So the darkness it could not overcome the light, and it could not comprehend the light. Now, what does that mean? I think it believes it's twofold. One, that the darkness is as far as creation goes, and then also redemption. So it's twofold: creation and redemption. Jesus comes in creation, and he speaks into existence. Light exists, and Jesus is there in the beginning. And then even in the new world, there seems like there's this new era that Jesus comes in his incarnation. He brings light in this dark world. And the darkness, this spiritual darkness that is the world, cannot comprehend, nor can it overcome the light. Rob, do you have anything you want to say about the idea of darkness and light?
No, yeah. So with let's go in. So with darkness, yeah. I mean, I think we're pretty familiar like with what darkness is, right? Because we're born in sin naturally, right? And darkness has to do with like the spiritual powers that are out there and stuff like that. So when the light comes, right, it's foreign to us, right? It's something new. It's something that we're not used to. You know what I'm saying? So we need somebody to tell us about it. We see it, and automatically it's different from what we're doing. And here in John, right, it's saying that ultimately it's Jesus who's the light. That when we see Jesus, this is different than what we're used to. We're used to living in darkness. We're used to abiding by the powers that be. But here Jesus is revealing the light, right? And then again, it said in him was life too. So not only is he the light, he's the life, right? And with life, it's not, right, we're living, we're breathing, right? We're alive, right? So with life, it's more than just, hey, just the physical aspect of it, that there's something deeper behind it that Jesus presents when he's given life. So with the life, it's ultimately talking about like the fulfillment, right? Because we were created as image bearers of God to reflect God, right? Within this world, to express dominion, you know what I'm saying? To rule, reign over His creation in a way that honors Him and respects Him as Creator. And when we step out of that role and we want to do our own thing, right? This is where we experience a sense of death, which is like a separateness ultimately from God, right? And there's this darkness that comes with that, right? And it's death, but Jesus comes to bring fulfillment. We don't experience fulfillment aside of Jesus. Everything that we're looking for, right? Like people, they're flexing all kind of different stuff. Hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. And ultimately what everybody's trying to do is like live a fulfilled life. They're trying to find fulfillment.
Yeah.
Whether it's like in their job, in their career, in their hobby, whatever it is, they're trying to find a sense of fulfillment. And here we get a big claim is that, in Him was life, right? That Jesus is life. And if you want that fulfillment, if you want that everything that you're looking for, it's ultimately found in Jesus. People are going to point you to created things. But here we have the Creator who's given us life and fullness of it.
Let's go to verse 7. Verse 7 says, He came as a witness to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through Him. Let's talk a little bit about John, his role as bearing witness, and then I'll talk about what it means to believe through Him. And so go ahead and talk about a little bit about that, Rob.
Yeah, so
bearing witness.
So with John, we're not talking about John the author, right? The Apostle John. I'm talking about John the Baptist, who was set apart, right, for a specific ministry, and this dude had to live wild, right? He had to live crazy, eat locusts, eat some crazy stuff, dress crazy, eat crazy. He was different, right? And really, like when you think about it, God did that so that people could pay attention to Him. Like, hey, you got this prophet who's out here living crazy, looking crazy, and he's telling us something. You know what I'm saying? So God in His sovereignty is calling him about to prepare the way for Jesus, because people are so soaked in darkness, they need to be told where the light is. You know what I'm saying? Like what the light is. Like, hey, and here John the Baptist is sent from God, right? It says there was a man sent from God. So God had sent this man, right? And he came as a witness to bear witness about the light, that he came to proclaim, hey, Jesus is coming. Bearing witness is ultimately like a proclamation that, hey, I'm going to testify, right? He's sent from God. God has instilled a ministry within him, and he's telling people about, hey, there's a guy coming. The light is coming, and you need to be aware of this. You need to be ready for this, right? So there's a preparation that is taking place that, hey, look at here Jesus is coming, right? And I think, already like getting the application a little bit, like we can be John the Baptist like, right? Is, hey, we know Jesus is coming back, right? And here we're on this earth making way for him. Like, hey, Jesus is coming back. You better get ready. Like we're bearing witness to the light. Like, hey, I know Apostle Paul, right? Yeah. He says that we're leading in a triumphal procession, right? That we're testifying, hey, somebody's coming, right? Somebody's coming. And here, this is how it all started. Jesus initially was testified about by John. Yep.
I think usually when you hear the word witness, we often hear about like Jehovah's Witnesses, you know. So like witness it implies that in the Apostle John who's writing this, talking about John the Baptist was a witness, saying that he knew Jesus, and so he's telling people about that light, about Jesus, so that people might believe in him. And so Christians, we are witnesses in the sense of God has revealed himself to us through his word, ultimately through Jesus Christ and through his word. And we are telling people about what we know about God, what we know about Jesus, so that people would believe through him. That's ultimately why we're talking about this day, so that people would come to believe in Jesus, so that they would come to the light. And then in verse 8, it says, he was not the light, but came to bear witness about the light. And then it says, the true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. Talk, Rob, about the idea of like light, what the culture sees as light. What's the idea of light?
I mean, yeah, it's different for a lot of people, but I think nowadays, like within this new age type of like culture, we're starting to see new age practices, new age beliefs are starting to come about to where, hey, there's a light that's inside of you that you have to dig and find out, and you have to be aligned in order to see what it is, and it's ultimately a pointing towards self. There's other variations of it, but I mean that seems to be the more primary one. Is, hey, there's a light within you, there's a divineness to you that you have to tap into, and once you get enlightened, boom. Another form of light is like when you learn something new, right? It's like, hey, you need to be enlightened, right? You need to know this in order for you to experience something, and they're gonna get kind of Gnostic with it. You know what I'm saying? Hey, we've reached this different level of consciousness. Is a big word they throw out. We've reached this level of consciousness. You got to be enlightened and all that type of stuff. And ultimately, it's pointing to themselves. But here we get something crazy, is that John 1:8, he was not the light, but came to bear witness about the light. And Jesus is the true light. So one, I think we can learn humility from John, right? Because some people, right, they're like, hey, I'm the light. I'm the light. Look at me. And here John is saying, hey, he was not the light, but came to bear witness about the light. And when you study, John's mission, things that he said within Scripture, he's always testifying, hey, I'm not. There's someone who's coming who's going to baptize. I'm not the one. Yeah. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. Jesus is that guy. And that's that. So the light is viewed as different things, but here the true light is Jesus, and he's the light that gives to everyone.
And then lastly, in verse 9, the true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. What I want to say about that is, Jesus, he came into the world. He's God. He came into the world. He is the light, as John's been telling us. And then it's this idea of was coming into the world, that he came inside of this world. And then as an application, he sends us out to be the light of the world. That this world is dark, but he calls us to be the light of the world. And as John is not the light, we point to a greater light. The only thing light about us is Jesus. And so as we follow the example of John the Baptist and say, look, it's not about me. I'm not the light. I'm in this world. Jesus sent me in this world to bear witness about him. He is the true light, and I want you to come to know this light. Not that, and you're right, there's this idea that we all have this light inside of us, but John tells us that actually the light is Jesus, and he gives light to everybody. And John's not saying that he's giving like everyone has this light inside of him. It's that Jesus shines in this darkness, and this darkness can't overcome his light. And the only people who can get the light, the only people who can receive this light, is directly by believing in Jesus. Believing in Jesus. So that's important for all of you to know. We wanted to give you a quick devotional on the Gospel of John, and I'm going to continue going through the Gospel of John for all of us. I believe that the Gospel of John is important if you're just getting in the habit of reading the Bible. And in a few moments, we're going to go ahead and talk about how to read the Bible. Welcome back. We're going to talk about how to read the Bible. We are